This is Democracy Watch. Mark, we've got a new announcement from Pam Bondi here thanking Chuck Grassley for, and I hope you're sitting down for this, for giving her information related to former FBI Director James Comey's failed investigation into Hillary Clinton's mishandling of highly classified information when she was Secretary of State, which means that right now, in the year of our Lord 2025, we are relitigating Hillary's emails. So first and foremost, why would Pam Bondi, as the Attorney General of the United States, the highest law enforcement official in the nation, need to go to Chuck Grassley to release information that she presumably, after years and years and years of these investigations, would already have access to?
Yeah, I mean, for fuck's sake, as you point out, this is something that took place in 2016. It actually took place, you may recall, over the summer of 2016. So we are in the 9th-year anniversary of her emails. And why is Pam Bondi going to Chuck Grassley? I have no earthly idea. She is the Attorney General of the United States. James Comey actually was the FBI director who reports to the Attorney General of the United States.
Right.
Like all of the emails in the possession of the Department of Justice. I mean, obviously she's doing it to help Donald Trump try to distract, right? So we know why she's doing it, right? She's doing this because she is trying to turn the page from the Epstein situation, which has turned into a total debacle for Donald Trump. I mean, Donald Trump is obviously now not just lost control of the narrative, which is something you and I talked about in the aftermath, but he is reeling from this. I mean, like he is just does not know how to get his way out of this, because the fact is, Donald Trump had a relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. It was a documented relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. And, he is now just trying to figure out the best way out of this. And having tried a variety of failed efforts, he has now settled on, let's go back to the future and go back to 2016 and Hillary Clinton and when President Obama was in office. And you see that. So that, I think, makes the most sense. The thing that does not make any sense to me is why on earth they are going through Chuck Grassley. I mean, right. Chuck Grassley is 1,000 years old. I mean, he's a U.S. senator. And why they are picking him as the vehicle to play this game of pitch and catch over absolutely nothing, over literally something that was absolutely nothing in 2016 and is even more absolutely nothing in 2025 is beyond me. But I can promise you this, the legacy media will eat this up. How do I know? Because I was the general counsel of Hillary Clinton's campaign in 2016. When they when her emails distracted them from, let's see, Donald Trump calling for Russia to release a hack and release documents, Donald Trump distracting from the Access Hollywood tape, and Donald Trump distracting from, let's see, his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, right? Yeah. I mean, let's remember, Donald, a lot of what is now being reported about Jeffrey Epstein today is actually stuff that was available in 2016.
Yeah.
In fact, some of it was even reported in 2016. But, Donald Trump realizes that if he just says her emails, like maybe the legacy media will once again drop every ounce of responsible reporting into what Donald Trump is up to and once again chase her emails.
Right. I think you're exactly right. In terms of why Chuck Grassley, the only thing I can think of is that he's not perceived in exactly the same way that like the Marjorie Taylor Greens or Jim Jordans of the party are perceived. And so maybe Chuck Grassley, at least for them, has a little bit more gravitas, maybe has more gravitas with the political establishment on the right more broadly. And so if we can get Chuck Grassley to be involved in all of this, then maybe it'll seem a little bit more legitimate as opposed to just getting the usual firebrands to relitigate Hillary's emails, because that'll kind of fall flat in the same way that it has when they've been talking about it over the last 9 years. But with that said, I think it's worth asking here too, because granted, it's beyond obvious that this is a distraction for them. And just like Hillary's emails is now becoming their latest distraction, Trump also has taken to trying to attack Barack Obama. And so he's really focused his ire on his political opponents. We've got Hillary, we've got Obama, and of course, James Comey and John Brennan have been in the news lately as well. He's also trying to wrap up the Biden administration officials, blaming them for what he's calling a forgery of the Epstein files. And so we have this whole universe of Democratic leaders of the past who he's drawing back in. We also see that he is perfectly content to weaponize the Justice Department in his favor. And of course, Pam Bondi is not going to serve as any barrier or impediment to doing that. And so is there any worry here that, notwithstanding the blatant bullshit of his claims, that he can still basically weaponize the government against these people? And yes, it'll serve as a broader distraction from the Epstein stuff, but on a more like dangerous immediate level, he can also actually do the thing. He can actually go after these people. Yes, it'll have like the secondary effect of distracting from Epstein, but he can actually go after his political enemies using the Department of Justice right now, as he's wanted to do for so long. I mean, this guy ran a campaign in 2016 where he got his supporters to chant "lock her up" every single day. Might now he be kind of debuting or normalizing us to this idea that he's actually going to go ahead and do it?
So, I mean, the first thing listening to your rundown makes me think this guy may be suffering some serious cognitive decline, because if you notice, everything you list is like a decade old.
Right.
It's like he hasn't moved on. Like
Yeah.
like literally, like when he's reaching for something, the little synapses in his brain are like Barack Obama, you know,
Yeah.
James
Comey, John Brennan, yeah.
Brennan, James Comey, Hillary Clinton. It's almost like he's reliving this era,
Yeah.
and it's the thing that's on top of his mind. Okay, but to answer your question, yeah, I worry. Look, I worry that Donald Trump will weaponize the Department of Justice against political enemies. I worry about that actively. I am one of the people he wants to weaponize the Department of Justice against. So
Right.
I fit into the 2016 era because, like I said, I was involved in representing the Clinton campaign at the time. So in that sense, yes, I worry. But look, I mean, Barack Obama enjoys the same absolute immunity that Donald Trump does. Again, there is like something wrong in Donald Trump's brain because he fought so hard to get presidential absolute immunity. And then he kind of forgets that, wait, there was actually a president before him that might also get that immunity. Right. So like that's kind of a nothing. But the second thing is, these have all been investigated. I mean, James Comey was no friend of the Clintons. Like, James Comey was like not doing any favors for the Clinton campaign. I know because I was with the Clinton campaign.
Yeah.
James Comey's handling of the emails was absolutely atrocious.
And it was one of the reasons that helped Donald Trump win. I mean, all of the media coverage in the lead up to the election from like October to November was about Hillary's emails, thanks to James Comey.
Correct. So like, the fact is, they already did a hit job on Hillary Clinton over her emails. There's no more hit jobs left to do. James Comey used up the last of the hit jobs against Hillary Clinton on that. And in terms of the other investigations, he turned, I saw the other day, on John Durham. John Durham was his last special prosecutor to do a hit job on Hillary Clinton, the FBI, the law, the people who did the investigation of the of Russians' interference in the 2016 elections. Like, he just keeps going back to the greatest hits, but like there was no there before. There is certainly not going to be more there now. Now, do I still worry about it and take it seriously? Yeah, because he can cause a lot of stir and commotion and appoint and insist that the Department of Justice, do his bidding and drive up people's legal fees and their worry and all of that. Sure. But at the end of the day, there's nothing that is going to come of this other than Donald Trump trying to distract from this. But I do want to ask you, Brian, a question. Were we not promised that Donald Trump and Pam Bondi would respect the normal separation between the Department of Justice and the White House? I mean, he's just ordering things up. Like, the legacy media is like just glossed over the pretense being dropped that somehow Donald Trump doesn't control the Department of Justice, which he does. And everyone's like, oh yeah, well, of course Donald Trump controls the Department of Justice. I mean, Merrick Garland couldn't be seen in the same zip code as Joe Biden without Republicans and Fox News claiming foul.
Right. I mean, the whole Bill Clinton, Loretta Lynch thing was a scandal for years. And yet now you have Donald Trump going into the Department of Justice, basically telling prosecutors who he would like to order hits on and like brought up you. You know what I mean? And so and nobody bats an eye because it's just baked into the cake that this is who Donald Trump is. And so he's graded on a curve, and we just kind of ignore the fact, or legacy media certainly ignores the fact, that what's happening is not normal. And by virtue of treating it as such, they are helping normalize it. I do have to ask too, as it relates to the prospect of any prosecutions moving forward. You know, we've talked about the presumption of regularity, the fact that Donald Trump can send his DOJ into court and the courts will pay him deference because it's the federal government, and for years and years and years, decades, centuries, the federal government has been there telling the truth in court, and so they're riding the coattails of that goodwill that the federal government and the DOJ have built up. If the Trump administration does opt to move forward with some political prosecution of Hillary Clinton or Barack Obama or James Comey or John Brennan or any of these people that they've threatened, does that obliterate in the eyes of these judges any presumption of regularity, which, by the way, is already getting chipped away at right now because we've seen the ways that this administration is going to defy court orders or push the legal limits of any laws that they try to fight? Would that just kind of ultimately backfire on the administration in the sense that if you do that, if you take Hillary Clinton into court or something like that for something that's been litigated in Congress at the DOJ for the better part of a decade, does that just destroy any semblance of regularity or goodwill that this administration might have built up?
Yeah, I also want to add one other thing. Hillary Clinton didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
Like
even the Republican-led House Oversight Committee and all of the committees that investigated her, those Republican-led committees said the exact same thing.
I mean, this has been a made up scandal by the right wing for years.
Yeah.
That there's no there. Does it chip away at the presumption of regularity? One would hope so, right? One would hope that by now federal judges see the stunts that are going on, see the misuse of the Department of Justice, see the defiance of court orders. Look at the lawsuit that he just filed against Rupert Murdoch and the Wall Street Journal. I mean, I'm no fan of Rupert Murdoch, but that's a preposterous lawsuit. I mean, the idea that somehow, that Donald Trump is going to sue for billions of dollars the Wall Street Journal for reporting on a letter that he apparently, or they report, wrote on the occasion of Epstein's birthday, it's just preposterous. But yet this is the world in which we live. And so one hopes that all of these things chip away. One hopes that, the misstatements and the lies the Department of Justice lawyers have told in these various cases chips away. One would hope that the fact that he appoints people like Alina Habba to be the U.S. Attorney in New Jersey chips away at it. One would hope that all of these things are making the judiciary wake up. But who knows? I worry that it is so ingrained in them that they have to give the benefit of the doubt to the administration and the Department of Justice that there is going to be a lot more heartburn ahead. Look, we're only 6 months into this administration, and already there's all this damage. We have another 3.5 years of this. And so, I hope that the courts are wising up to this, but we will see.
And finally, let me finish off with this, and this is kind of along the same lines, but is there a world in which if the DOJ decides to throw resources at stuff like this, which, there's clearly no there, but let's say they try to do it anyway, they don't have unlimited resources. And in fact, on top of the fact that they don't have unlimited resources, they've lost a lot of their good prosecutors who've left. A lot of these divisions have been shut down. A lot of these good attorneys, good prosecutors have been forced out to make way for what I would assume are less accomplished, less able attorneys and prosecutors. And so are they just stretching themselves thin with an already under-resourced, DOJ by chasing after this stuff that only has political benefit for them, but where there's not really any basis in the law?
Yeah, look, I think if I were a MAGA supporter, I would be upset. I'm you got a limited number of prosecutors, you got a limited number of resources, and you're spending it on chasing conspiracy theories that have already been chased.
Right. 10-year-old conspiracy theories about Hillary Clinton. Yeah.
About Hillary Clinton. You are tracking down, with ICE, people who are working hard and holding down jobs in this country. And you're not going after the worst of the worst. You're not going after organized crime, right? Because every time you do these other things, you're not using resources for that. You're not going after drug cartels. Instead, you're doing this. And by the way, on top of all of that, the one thing the one thing that Donald Trump promised from his Department of Justice, that J.D. Vance promised from his Department of Justice, that Kash Patel and Don Bongino promised and insisted would happen with the FBI, that Pam Bondi promised as Attorney General would happen, is the release of the Epstein files. And let's not forget that. Like, let's not forget that the reason why they are doing all of this with Hillary Clinton is because they don't want to release the Epstein files.
Yep.
The reason why Donald Trump is saying, I instruct that they release the grand jury material or the grand jury transcripts. Well, you know what the grand jury transcripts aren't? They aren't the files from Jeffrey Epstein on who his clients were. They aren't the documents that were seized from his office. They aren't the spreadsheets that the FBI would have prepared based on the myriad of interviews they conducted of victims as to who the perpetrators were, who these men were. They're not that. And so ask yourself, why on earth is Donald Trump spending all of this time and energy sending people down to look at Hillary Clinton's emails and not releasing those files?
Yep.
And I think we all know what the answer is. And so if I were a MAGA supporter who was really concerned about the crimes that Jeffrey Epstein did and wanted to make sure that the men who collaborated with him, who befriended him, who partied with him, who went to exclusive events with him, with young girls, if I was worried about that, I'd be very upset that the resources are going to this Clinton email nonsense and not releasing the Epstein files. So here's my ask. Hey, Donald Trump, release the Epstein files. You run the Department of Justice. Pam Bondi does whatever you tell her to do. You don't need to go to a court to get, to release grand jury transcripts. Tell her to release the spreadsheets, release the files, release the interviews that tell us who these men were. Why aren't you doing that, Donald Trump?
Perfectly put. We'll leave it there. For those who are watching right now, it is especially important, as we've spoken about legacy media, to elevate voices who are going to meet this moment with the urgency that it deserves. To that point, Marc has a YouTube channel. If you are not yet subscribed, it does not cost anything to subscribe, but it's a great way to elevate his voice. So I'll put the link to Democracy Docket right here on the screen and also in the post description of this video. I'm Brian Tyler Cohen.
I'm Marc Elias.
This is Democracy Watch.